Now, there are a lot of strategies in place for 2023. There was the element of surprise. That element of surprise was used by Atiku. Element of surprise where he got Tambowa to step down for him at the convention ground, surprised Wike, and Atiku won. There was a surprise factor from Peter Obi, right? Politicians, the core politicians, were not really expecting that Peter Obi surge and Peter Obi wave and the performance of Obi in the general election. There was that surprise. But the biggest shocker was orchestrated by President Tinubu. The biggest shocker. You know why? In August, September, October of 2022, there was a rumor, there were press reports that INEC would not use the server for presidential election. Few months before, the server was used, IREF server was used in Osun State election, where Ademola Adeleke emerged as governor. Some months later, there were reports that INEC would not use IREF for presidential election that will come up in February of the following year. And then quickly, INEC chairman, then Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, came out and said that's not true. INEC sent out people. You have chairman of INEC going to Chatham House to say 2023 elections will be the best, most verifiable. There will be electronic transmission of results. Server will be used. Everything. You have Mikey Guinea being deployed. Mikey Guinea with his integrity factor being deployed to project the image. All will be well. Server will be used. All will be well in 2023 elections. There were rumors that server will not be used. The INEC came out and said, nah, the server will be used. Now, the strategy is just like, I don't know how best to illustrate it, but the surprise in it is that, people were not meant to know that strategy was in play. Because at first it was the Senate. The Senate tried to go back to the Electoral Act to make it impossible for electronic transmission to happen. That didn't happen. And so the Senate kept quiet. And people kept quiet, and there were a lot of expectations about use of server. Opposition parties, everybody across the world, people open computer centers and all that to track the results that are being uploaded on the IREF server and all of that. People were expecting, INEC built that expectation that it was going to be free and fair. There was that expectation that the server would work and everything. And boom, on election day, server was off. Either a virus or whatever they did, server did not work on election day. And it was meant to be a surprise, because that surprise factor is when it's most effective. Go back in history, war, the element of surprise is the best strategy, where people are just like, you don't know what hit you, right? Even if the attacking force is a small force, but if they can achieve the element of surprise, it can throw a big army in confusion. And so we had on election day, server did not work, right? If the opposition parties, right, the Atiku, Obi, if they knew that server is not going to work, probably they could have gone to court to get a court order to mandate INEC to use electronic transmission of results. Rather, we were relying on the INEC regulations. INEC regulations imply that server would work, electronic transmission would happen, but the law, the constitution, the law that was passed gave INEC the liberty to either use electronic transmission result or with the method they deemed fit. And that law, that constitution supersedes the regulation of INEC. And then, if there was not that element of surprise, those opposition parties could have gotten a court order. If there was a court order mandating INEC to use the IREF server, probably INEC would have thought twice about it. Because if on election day, right, INEC saw server was not working, and it means there was substantial non-compliance to their own regulations, they could have cancelled the election. They could have postponed the election to see what went wrong. But in this instance, that did not take place. It takes a genius, evil genius, if you like, to plot that you planned the server was not going to work. For months, we heard that, right? But the opposition must not know that this is the play. The opposition went on, campaigning and thinking, oh, it's just going to be on the votes, and stuff like that. And boom, even that day, the election day, civil societies and others, everybody was just at a loss of what was going on. So when you think about that, this is somebody that is smart.